Hello, my name is Haz. It's short for either Harry or Hazel. My pronouns are they, he, or she. Yeah. I am going to make a transition timeline video, but non-binary edition, because I think it's very important that non-binary transition stories are heard, because medical transition is just as important for non-binary people as it is for binary trans people, and I think that is very important to say because I didn't believe that for the longest time, but I'll get into that. I haven't scripted this or anything. I've gotten a few notes, but this is my first time making like a personal YouTube video. I do art. I might plug that. I'll link it in the description. I do art. I will plug my art. I'll also be putting photos up of me during my different eras, my different time periods. And we'll start from the beginning. I was born female. I'm not intersex or anything. I was born and the doctor looked at me and went, girl. So I'm AFAB. I grew up pretty gender non-conforming. I'm lucky that my mum didn't push gender stereotypes on me too much as a little kid. So I was just kind of left to my own devices with what I'd wear. And I'd wear a combination of feminine and masculine. I think my style has always been kind of out there anyway, kind of kooky, weird. I think a lot of other kids kind of saw me as weird and out there anyway because I am autistic. I was seen as different as a kid, so I think wearing perhaps clothes that weren't too feminine was kind of seen as, oh yeah, that's just who that kid is. And I have a birth name. I went by that until puberty hit. I don't say my birth name, but I'm at the point in my life where I like it, and I hold a special place in my heart for it. But yeah, that was me up until I was about 12. I was a nice kid. I liked life, and I always have been sort of strange, which is nice. Anyway, I remember being sat down as a kid and being told that I was going to go through puberty. And in my brain, I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. I said, that's not going to happen to me. I don't want that to happen, so it's not going to happen. I was very resistant to the idea of going through puberty. Well, going through female puberty, because I just did not like the idea of it. And I remember there was occasions where I look back at me as a kid and I can be like, oh, that's gender dysphoria. Like, I used to pack as a kid. I didn't know what to call it, but I did. So anyway, when puberty came, that's when everything hit the fan. And I was like, oh god, this feels wrong. I feel like my skin is not my own. I feel like my body is changing in ways I do not want it to. And so through the internet, through YouTube, I found out what being trans is, and I was like, oh god. Oh no, that is me, because I do not feel comfortable in my body and the way it is changing. So when I was 12, I came out as trans to my friends in school, and I started going by a name that was very similar to my birth name, just one letter taken off, and I went by that name for about 2 months, and then I realised I just wanted like more of a masculine name, so I chose for myself, I chose the name Harry, because it is similar-ish to my birth name. The first letter is the same, and it's a similar, like, structure, I guess. So I was comfortable with that. I knew that I didn't have to go by a guy name that was similar to my birth name, but I wanted to, because again, I'm autistic and I don't like change, which is probably partially what was happening with reacting to puberty. So yeah, came out as trans. I came out to my parents when I was 13. I basically wrote them a letter saying, I'm a boy and I like girls, because I was 13. I didn't I don't know, say it in a very eloquent way. But I just kind of wrote, I'm a boy and I have a girlfriend now, so yeah. Anyway, they found that letter and sat me down and they were like, if you're sure about this is going to be a very difficult journey. And I was like, well, I'm sure, because I do not feel comfortable right now. My main source of dysphoria in that time frame was my chest. When I say my dysphoria was at 1,010%, I wanted to crawl out of my skin. Being trapped in my skin then as a 14, 15-year-old with my chest made me want to die. I was so distressed in this time period that I latched onto transmedicalist ideas, and I went down the transmedicalist rabbit hole, and I was like, non-binary people aren't real, non-binary people are making fun of, you know, real trans people, and they're taking away our healthcare, because I was put on puberty blockers at 15, but it took, I don't know, the whole medical system around trans healthcare is abysmal. So I was waiting and waiting for any sort of hope from medical care, that I latched onto these ideologies, and I took my anger out on non-binary people. And unfortunately, one of my friends at the time that was identifying as trans, who I felt like wasn't quote-unquote a real trans person, I took my anger out at them. I was just a very, very, very upset person. But by the time I was 17, me and my parents took myself out of the NHS trans healthcare service, because it was awful, and I had a major meltdown when I had an appointment where they said, oh yeah, next appointment we'll refer you for testosterone, which I obviously really felt like I needed at the time, because I was so uncomfortable in my body and I identified as trans male, so testosterone was the way I felt like I needed to go. They said, oh, next appointment, we'll refer you. I come back from a next appointment, which was probably like in a month's time, and they sat me down and said, we haven't referred you for testosterone. We haven't referred you. So I had a massive mental breakdown, and we ended up going private. But before this time, I was trying to present masculine, like I was trying to present as masculine as I could, just so people would believe me and believe how in distress I was. But also, at the time, I knew that 100% masculine didn't feel right, and I didn't know how to think about that. I didn't know, you know, I knew I felt it, and so I kind of pushed back against it. Like, I started wanting to grow the top of my hair out and have the shaved sides, but grow the top out. And there was pushback against that. I started experimenting with makeup. There was pushback against that, because if I was identifying as a guy, I couldn't be feminine. So I I expressed myself quite masculine for the longest time. So by the time I went on testosterone, I was feeling good. I finally got what I felt like I needed for the longest time. And I went on testosterone and I was excited about it. I was very happy. So we went privately. I got testosterone. I went on, and this was in June 2019. I was 16, turning 17. And so we also at the same time went private for my top surgery. And my top surgery could happen after 6 months of testosterone. So on the 7th of January 2020, that's when I got my top surgery. And at the time, it just felt so surreal. I had desperately felt like I needed this operation for however many years of hell that it just felt like I don't actually believe that it's happening. And I remember seeing my chest for the first time after surgery, and I was just dissociating because I was like, oh. I remember, I think my only real thoughts at the time were it was a lot higher up than I was expecting, because feminine chests, the nipples and stuff lie more further down, because I don't know, that's how it is. So I remember thinking, oh, it's a bit higher up than I was expecting it to be. But I don't really think I had any other thoughts at the time, until a few months later, where I started questioning again. Because up until I went on T and had top surgery, I was still identifying as trans male. Like, male, guy, like 100% binary. And so after I got T and top surgery, that's when I had the peace of mind and the space to be like, okay, I'm not in major emotional distress anymore. I can give myself some space to explore the more feminine things. So I started growing my hair out. I will put photos of my growing my hair timeline in 2020, which it was in lockdown as well, so that helped. And I started questioning about my chest, like, as well. Not to say that I regretted top surgery. It was 110% needed, like, for me personally. I think I could have benefited from a more open environment to non-binary being a possibility, because I believe that if I was accepted for being non-binary at the time, I would have gone about top surgery differently. I wouldn't have not had it, because I was very uncomfortable and would be very uncomfortable with the chest that I had. But I think I would have a more non-binary appearing top surgery instead of a full-on masculinizing top surgery. Yeah. During 2020, that's when I started being like, okay, maybe I'm non-binary, because I do feel like there is still some feminine elements to my identity, to my being. I also started going by the name Hazel and they, them at college. Ooh. And I'll show photos of me in dresses and with makeup and everything. I was exploring myself at the time. Coming out to my parents again was very difficult, because coming out in the first place was very difficult, and so I didn't want to come out again. But at the time, I was still on testosterone and felt like I wanted to come off, just because I needed that space to question my non-binary identity and explore that part of myself. So I had to come out again to my parents, and I came off of testosterone about late 2020, I'd say. And I had loads of fun expressing feminine. 2021, I had some good hairstyles. I'll put all the photos up. And at the time, I went from identifying as trans male to non-binary. I felt very in the middle of non-binary. I've forgotten the micro label because I don't necessarily, like, I don't label my sexuality, I don't label my gender apart from non-binary transmasc. But at the time I felt like very non-binary, like very in the middle of the two extremes. Like this is me, I'm just all of the gender. And I was having a lot of fun with it. And then later on, towards the time I started uni, I went by they, them, or he, him pronouns. Because I still very much identify with trans masc. I definitely, I don't know, I'm either right in the middle of non-binary or identify more on the trans masc side. I don't personally label it anymore. I'm transmasc and I'm non-binary, and gender isn't real, so I don't care to label it any further than that. That's where I am at the moment. So I went by they, them for a few years, and then I came to uni and I went by they, he, and then gradually I started feeling more and more like, gender isn't real, I just use whatever pronouns. Reclaiming she was very difficult for me. I didn't do it for the longest time because being misgendered was such a source of pain for me as a trans guy, like as a teen. And so having she in my pronouns at the moment is very, what is it, liberating? I don't know. For me, having she in my pronouns at the moment feels like, screw gender. Gender isn't real. I can be non-binary, I can be the way I am, and still go by she, and it doesn't matter. Like, people can call me she, and I don't care. I don't care anymore, and that is amazing. That is so great for my, I don't know, mental health, because being in the body that I am now, I have like 0.03% of the dysphoria I used to have, and I'm just so grateful. I'm very grateful. But anyway, when I was in uni, I knew that I kind of wanted to start testosterone again, because I was only on it for probably about a year overall. I was on injections for 6 months or so, and then I got prescribed gel to kind of taper myself off. I wasn't taking my gel because I was going through that whole thing. But then I knew when I came to uni when I was about 19, 20 that I wanted to start testosterone again, but probably low dose, because I identify as non-binary now, but I also want an androgynous body. I still have dysphoria, obviously not as much as I used to, but I still had/have dysphoria about certain feminine things. So I was like, being more masculine in my body would be great. Like, I would, it's not like I'm in a massive amount of pain without the testosterone, but having it, I would feel better. And I feel like that's the case for a lot of non-binary experiences. There's not necessarily a case of massive dysphoria. There's just a case of, oh, I'd feel happy, euphoria, with, more masculine or more androgynous presentation of my body. And this is what I'm saying. It is so important not to fall down the trans medicalist, you need to have dysphoria to be trans, because euphoria is a thing. That you can have gender euphoria without having gender dysphoria and still do what you want with your body. Trans people, please let us do what we want with our bodies, Like, it's just the best way to go about it. It's the healthiest way. It's just letting us do what we want. I'm happy with having done what I want with my body. I'm currently just over 7 months back on testosterone gel. And I'm so happy that I did that for myself. I went privately again, this time without my parents' help. And I'm so, so happy with the fact that I did that for myself, and the fact that I know that it would make me happier. So I did it, and I just feel very happy about the changes, very happy that I am on a low dose, because being on like a cis male dose back in 2019, 2020 did stress me out. And I've had changes. I've had more body hair, which is amazing. I've grown a little mustache, which I am a bit conflicted about, because, you know, having facial hair as a very feminine presenting person does put me at a risk of safety. Like, it does pose a safety risk, being visibly trans. So with my mustache, I'm a bit more conflicted about letting it grow or not. But I am getting more body hair, and that is good. My voice is at a very comfortable place at the moment. It has dropped again since going back on tea, but I'm happy with it. Like, I got very stressed out in the first place about whether I'd be able to sing, because of my voice cracks. Singing got very, like, much more difficult. But I am very happy with my voice at the moment, because I can make it feminine if I need to. I can speak at a comfortable androgynous level as well if I need to, if I want to, and that's very affirming for me. Muscle growth is a thing with testosterone, which I'm very happy about too. I've gone back to the gym recently, New Year's and all that. I like going to the gym, so if testosterone helps with muscle building, that's a plus. Yeah, I'm just very happy with my transition at the moment. So that's the timeline up until this point. So what do I see for my transition in the future? I do think I would prefer a more androgynous chest. As for testosterone, I feel like I will continue it. I might lower my dose again if I get more masculinizing effects. Like, I'm very happy with where the effects are at the moment, but I feel like there probably would be a point where it would cross over to, okay, this is a bit too masculine for my liking now, so I might either lower the dose in the future or lower it and come off. I don't know, but I am excited. I don't know where I'll go, but I'm excited to continue my journey. Yeah, that's my story. That's my story. You know what? I'll put some photos of some outfits that I've liked recently. My style is quite feminine, I'd say. I'm not comfortable really in skirts and dresses, but I'd still say my style is quite feminine. I like cyberpunk. I like nature themes. I like cybergoth, but I don't know, that might be a bit too intense for me. I like hippie. I like being a hippie. When I'm just like chilling, a lot of the clothes I wear are like hippie clothes. But yeah, that's my story. Thank you for listening. I think it's very important to show non-binary transition stories, because they are just as important as binary transition stories and just as needed. The representation is just as needed. Gender isn't real and all that. Like, let trans people do what they want with their bodies. Screw the ban on puberty blockers. If I was born 8 years later and didn't have access to puberty blockers, I would have been 1,000,000% more. I'm saying a lot of percents. I would have been a lot more suicidal than I was. And that is scary. Like, these policies, these bans are costing trans kids their lives. Like, no joke about it. It's true. There are statistics. Trans kids kill themselves because of these attitudes towards trans healthcare, and I could have been a statistic I very well could have been. And so it's just so important. So that's why I'm telling my story. I'm not the best YouTuber, but I'm here. I want to have as many non-binary, as many queer, like, non-straightforward stories as possible. Because we're all beautiful, cis or trans or non-binary or any sort of way of presenting yourself, way of being. It's all so beautiful. Yes, please check out my art. I will link my art Instagram and my art YouTube. I do performance art, I do world building, I do character design, creature design, stuff like that. I do live performances sometimes when I can get around to doing them, and so that's what I'm personally very passionate about. So please follow that sort of stuff, and thank you for listening to my story. Yeah, be happy, fight for your rights. That's all I wanted to say. There's a frog. Okay, bye. Okay, bye. Okay, bye. Okay, bye. Bye, bye, bye.